The gentle hum of the refrigerator, the faint aroma of freshly brewed coffee, and the soft glow of the morning sun filtering through the kitchen window painted a picture of domestic tranquility. It was a scene I had cultivated, nurtured, and believed in for a decade. My kitchen, with its worn wooden countertops and the collection of mismatched mugs, was a sanctuary. Each item held a memory, a story, a shared moment with my husband, Mark, and our two children, Emily and Thomas. This morning, however, the familiar comfort was tinged with an unsettling undercurrent, a subtle dissonance that disrupted the harmony of my world. I sat at the kitchen table, the warmth of the ceramic mug seeping into my hands, yet a coldness was spreading through my veins. It was a feeling I couldn't quite articulate, a sense of unease that had been growing steadily over the past few weeks. It was as if an invisible veil was slowly being lifted, revealing a reality I wasn't prepared to face. Have you ever had a gut feeling that something isn't quite right, but you couldn't put your finger on it? That nagging suspicion that something was amiss, yet you lack the tangible evidence to validate your fears? It's a feeling that can be both subtle and overwhelming, a whisper in the back of your mind that refuses to be silenced. Maybe you've ignored it, brushed it off, or thought it was just your mind playing tricks. But what if that feeling was the start of a truth so shocking that it could change your life forever? Forever? Well, this is my story, and today I'm going to share how I uncovered a secret that turned my world upside down. How did I find out my husband had a second family? And more importantly, how did I expose him in the best way possible? Stay with me until the end. You won't want to miss how this unfolds. The memory of that particular Tuesday afternoon remains etched in my mind with startling clarity. It was a day that began like any other, filled with the mundane routines of daily life. I dropped Emily off at school, her bright smile and enthusiastic wave a familiar comfort. I then navigated the morning traffic, the radio playing a mix of familiar tunes and news updates, a backdrop to my thoughts. I returned home, the house quiet, the silence a stark contrast to the morning's bustle. It was in this quiet, this stillness, that the feeling intensified. It was a sensation that transcended mere intuition. It was a profound sense of something being fundamentally wrong. It was a typical Tuesday afternoon when I first started feeling like something was off. You know those moments in life when everything seems fine on the surface, but a little voice inside you keeps whispering, something's not right. I had that feeling. My husband and I had been married for 10 years, and we had what seemed like a perfect life. Our two kids, the house, the dog, everything was supposed to be perfect, but something just didn't add up. We had built a life together, a life that seemed idyllic from the outside. Our home, a two-story house with a white picket fence, was the embodiment of the American dream. Our children, Emily, a bright and inquisitive 8-year-old, and Thomas, a playful and energetic 5-year-old, were the center of our universe. Mark, my husband, was the picture of a devoted husband and father. He was successful in his career, charming and attentive. Or so I thought. Amy. Our life, as I perceived it, was a seamless blend of work, family, and shared experiences. We had our routines, our traditions, our inside jokes. We enjoyed weekend outings to the park, family dinners around the kitchen table, and cozy evenings watching movies. Our photo albums were filled with snapshots of happy moments, smiling faces, and shared laughter. Yet beneath the surface of this seemingly perfect life, cracks were beginning to appear, subtle fissures that hinted at a deeper, more troubling reality. I began noticing small changes. And he'd stay late at work more often, but whenever I asked about his day, the stories didn't match up. Then there were the odd phone calls, texts that were a little too quick to delete, messages I wasn't meant to see. At first, I thought maybe I was just being paranoid. But this feeling, this sense that I was being kept in the dark, kept gnawing at me. Mark's demeanor had shifted subtly. He was more distant, more preoccupied. His explanations for his late nights at the office were vague and inconsistent. He would mention meetings that seemed to stretch into the late hours, conference calls that lingered into the night. When I pressed for details, he would become evasive, offering broad, generalized responses that left me feeling more confused than reassured. The odd phone calls were another source of unease. He would step out of the room, his voice lowered, his tone hushed. When I asked who was calling, he would dismiss it as a work colleague or a client, but his demeanor suggested otherwise. The texts were perhaps the most settling. I would catch glimpses of messages flashing across his phone screen, messages that were quickly deleted or hidden. The sense that I was being deliberately excluded, that I was being kept at arm's length, grew stronger with each passing day. Yunko Ruth. The passage of time became a blur, a series of fragmented moments filled with suspicion and doubt. Each day brought new questions, new uncertainties. I found myself scrutinizing his every move, analyzing his every word, searching for clues that would validate my growing fears. I replayed conversations in my mind, searching for inconsistencies, for subtle shifts in tone that might reveal a hidden truth. The phone calls, the late nights, the deleted text, they all formed a pattern, a puzzle that I was determined to solve. The weight of suspicion was heavy, a constant burden that weighed on my heart and mind. I found myself becoming increasingly withdrawn, my thoughts consumed by the mystery that was unfolding before me. I was trapped in a cycle of doubt, unable to escape the feeling that my life was unraveling. Now you may be wondering, why didn't you just ask him? Trust me, I thought about it. The question lingered in my mind, a constant temptation, a potential release from the torment of uncertainty. But deep down, I feared that if I asked him directly, I wouldn't just hear something that would break my heart. I'd hear the truth, and it would shatter everything. I wasn't ready for that. The fear of confronting the truth was paralyzing. I knew that once the words were spoken, once the truth was revealed, there would be no turning back. Our lives would be irrevocably changed. I wasn't ready to face that reality. I wasn't ready to confront the possibility that the man I loved, the man I had built my life with, was capable of such deception. So instead of confronting him, I decided to do something a little different. I took matters into my own hands. I decided to embark on a journey of discovery, a quest to uncover the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The decision to investigate, to delve into the shadows of my husband's life, was not made lightly. It was a choice born of desperation, a desperate attempt to reclaim control of my own narrative. I did some digging. I started by keeping track of his whereabouts. When he'd say he was working late, I'd check the time. When he'd go on business trips, I'd make sure to follow up. I began meticulously documenting his movements, his phone calls, his online activity. I kept a journal, a record of every inconsistency, every unexplained absence, every suspicious interaction. I tracked his car's GPS, noting the times and locations of his travels. I checked his phone records, searching for unfamiliar numbers, for patterns of communication that didn't align with his explanations. And then, one day, the truth came out in the most unexpected way. The moment of revelation, the moment when the pieces of the puzzle finally fell into place, was both shocking and surreal. The digital image on my phone screen seemed to pulse with a life of its own, a stark, undeniable testament to the betrayal that had been unfolding beneath my very nose. It wasn't just a photograph, it was a snapshot of an alternate reality, a parallel existence I had no knowledge of. Mark, my husband, stood in the center, his arm casually draped around the shoulders of a woman I didn't know. She was vibrant, her smile radiating warmth, her eyes sparkling with a familiar affection. Two children, a boy and a girl, stood beside them, their features a blend of Mark's and the woman's, their laughter echoing in the still air of the image. They were at a park, a place of innocent joy, a setting that should have been filled with memories of our own family outings. Instead, it was a tableau of a life I was excluded from, a life that existed in the shadows, hidden from my view. My stomach dropped, and the air seemed to thicken, making it difficult to breathe. How had I missed this? How could I have been so blind? The question swirled in my mind, a chaotic storm of disbelief and confusion. How long had this been going on? Days? Months? Years? To what? The thought of Mark living a double life, of him sharing intimate moments with another woman and another family, was a crushing blow. It was as if the ground beneath me had crumbled, leaving me suspended in a void of disbelief and pain. The pain was suffocating, a physical ache that tightened my chest and made my eyes burn. I couldn't comprehend the magnitude of the betrayal, the sheer audacity of his deception. But I knew in that moment I couldn't let him get away with it. There was a flicker of resolve amidst the chaos, determination to confront the truth and reclaim my own narrative. But here's where things get interesting, because this isn't just a story about betrayal. It's a story about taking control. about turning the tables. You see, I didn't just find out. I exposed him, and not in the way you might think. The initial shock gave way to a cold, hard resolve. I wouldn't succumb to the role of a victim. I refused to let Mark's actions define me or dictate my future. I decided to take control to navigate this treacherous landscape with strength and dignity. I wouldn't allow his deception to shatter my sense of self or diminish my worth. I would confront him, not with anger or desperation, but with a calculated composure that would reveal the true depth of his betrayal. I didn't want to ruin my family's reputation or embarrass myself. No, I knew I needed to show him I wasn't someone to be played with. I understood that public humiliation or a dramatic confrontation would only serve to perpetuate the chaos and amplify the pain. I wanted to maintain my dignity, to handle the situation with grace, even in the face of such profound betrayal. I knew that my children, Emily and Thomas, would be watching, absorbing every reaction, every emotion. I wanted to demonstrate to them that strength and composure were not signs of weakness, but rather the hallmarks of resilience. I gathered the evidence, texts, pictures, anything I could find, and I made sure it was undeniable. I meticulously organized the digital evidence, creating a timeline of his activities, a visual representation of his deception. Every text message, every phone call, every photo was cataloged and cross referenced. I wanted to ensure that there would be no room for denial, no possibility of obfuscation. The evidence would speak for itself, a silent but powerful indictment of his actions. But here's the twist. When I confronted him, it wasn't about anger or revenge. I knew that would be easy, but I wanted to make sure he understood the gravity of what he'd done. So I chose a different method. The desire for revenge was a fleeting temptation, a momentary impulse fueled by anger and hurt. But I understood that revenge would only perpetuate the cycle of pain, creating a toxic atmosphere that would ultimately consume me. I wanted to transcend the base emotions of anger and retribution, to approach the situation with a clarity and composure that would force Mark to confront the consequences of his actions. I wanted him to understand the depth of his betrayal, not just the act itself, but the ripple effect it had on our lives, on our family. I spent days meticulously organizing the evidence, ensuring that every piece of information was readily accessible and easily comprehensible. I created digital folders categorized by date and type of evidence. I wrote detailed notes documenting every inconsistency, every discrepancy, every lie. I wanted to present a clear and irrefutable case, a narrative that would leave no room for doubt or denial. I practiced my delivery, rehearsing the words I would say, the questions I would ask. I wanted to maintain a calm and composed demeanor to avoid any emotional outbursts that might undermine my credibility. I knew that my strength would lie in my composure, in my ability to present the facts with clarity and conviction.
Mm.
I didn't want to ruin my family's reputation or embarrass myself. And you? I knew that public displays of anger and humiliation would only serve to perpetuate the chaos and amplify the pain. I wanted to maintain my dignity, to handle the situation with grace, even in the face of such profound betrayal. I knew that my children, Emily and Thomas, would be watching, absorbing every reaction, every emotion. I wanted to demonstrate to them that strength and composure were not signs of weakness, but rather hallmarks of resilience. I wanted to show them that even in the face of adversity, one could maintain their integrity and navigate difficult situations with poise. I invited him out for dinner at our favorite restaurant, the one we used to visit when things were still good. Things were still good. It was a place full of memories, and I needed to make this moment count. The restaurant, a cozy Italian bistro with warm lighting and the aroma of garlic and herbs, held a special place in our hearts. It was where we had celebrated anniversaries, birthdays, and other milestones. It was a place filled with memories of laughter, shared dreams, and whispered promises. I chose this setting deliberately, wanting to juxtapose the idyllic memories of our past with the stark reality of our present. I wanted Mark to confront the contrast, to recognize the chasm that had opened between our shared history and his present actions. When he walked in, I could see the guilt on his face. The lines around his eyes were deeper, his smile strained, his posture tense. He seemed smaller, less confident, as if the weight of his deception was pressing down on him. But I kept it cool, calm. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. You can cry. Instead, I slid the photos across the table, one by one, in front of him. His face went pale. He couldn't deny it anymore. The photos, strategically placed, formed a visual narrative of his double life. Each image, a snapshot of his alternate reality, served as a silent accusation, a testament to his betrayal. His face, initially masked by a veneer of composure, began to crumble. The color drained from his cheeks, his eyes widened in disbelief, his lips trembled. He reached for the photos, his fingers shaking, as if trying to grasp at a reality he could no longer deny. The silence that followed was deafening, a heavy, suffocating stillness that hung in the air. Mark's eyes darted between the photos and my face, searching for an explanation, a way to salvage the situation. But there was none. The evidence was irrefutable, the truth undeniable. And then I said the words that changed everything. This is your secret family, isn't it? The question hung in the air, a stark and direct confrontation that demanded an answer. The silence between us was deafening. He tried to justify himself, tried to explain it all away. But the truth was out. He stammered, his words disjointed and incoherent, his attempts at explanation falling flat against the weight of the evidence. He spoke of a mistake, a lapse in judgment, a moment of weakness. But his words rang hollow, devoid of sincerity, lacking the conviction that might have offered a glimmer of redemption. And the best part? I let him unravel in front of me. No drama, no big confrontation, just the cold, hard truth. I watched him squirm, his discomfort a silent testament to his guilt. I allowed him to confront the consequences of his actions, to grapple with the reality of his deception. I didn't interrupt, didn't offer a lifeline, didn't provide an escape. I simply observed, allowing him to unravel, to expose the true nature of his character. Here's what I want you to take from this. It wasn't about the betrayal or the anger. It wasn't even about punishing him. It was about reclaiming my power. The truth is, when you're confronted with something as painful as infidelity, you have two choices. You can let it destroy you, or you can use it to rebuild yourself. I chose the latter. I understood that anger and revenge would only perpetuate the cycle of pain, trapping me in a cycle of negativity. I chose to focus on my own well-being, on my emotional and mental health. I decided to channel my energy into self-discovery, into rediscovering my own strength and resilience. It was about taking the shattered pieces of my life and creating something new, something stronger, something that reflected my own inner fortitude. So I moved on. I focused on my kids, on myself. I found peace. And you know what? I learned something important through it all. Secrets have a way of coming out, but the real question is, what will you do when they do? The process of moving on was not immediate, nor was it painless. It was a gradual journey, a series of small steps that led to a profound transformation. I immersed myself in my children's lives, finding solace and joy in their laughter and their unwavering love. Emily and Thomas became my anchors, my beacons of light in the darkness. I attended their school events, helped with their homework, and created new memories that would overshadow the pain of the past. I focused on nurturing their emotional well-being, ensuring that they felt loved and secure, even amidst the turmoil. I also dedicated time to myself, rediscovering my own passions and interests. I enrolled in a pottery class, finding a creative outlet that allowed me to express my emotions through art. I took long walks in nature, finding solace in the tranquility of the woods and the rhythm of the waves. I reconnected with old friends, rekindling relationships that had been neglected during the years of my marriage. I found strength in their support, in their unwavering belief in my ability to overcome adversity. I began to practice mindfulness, learning to quiet the noise of my mind and find peace in the present moment. Meditation became a daily ritual, a way to center myself and cultivate inner calm. The realization that secrets have a way of surfacing was a profound one. I understood that truth, no matter how deeply buried, has a way of revealing itself. It was a lesson learned through pain, but it was also a lesson that empowered me. I understood that I could not control the actions of others, but I could control my own response. I could choose to face the truth with courage and integrity, to navigate the challenges with strength and resilience. The question of what to do when secrets are revealed became a guiding principle, a reminder that I had the power to shape my own destiny. The walk away from the restaurant was symbolic, a physical representation of my emotional journey. It was a step into a new chapter, a departure from the life I had known. The weight of the secret, the burden of betrayal, was lifted from my shoulders. I felt lighter, freer, as if a heavy cloak had been removed. The air was crisp, the stars were bright, and the city lights twinkled in the distance and small. It was a moment of clarity, a moment of profound peace. I had faced the truth, confronted the pain, and emerged stronger. So I moved on. I focused on my kids, on myself. I found peace. And you know what? I learned something important through it all. Secrets have a way of coming out, but the real question is, what will you do when they do? I learned that moving on wasn't about forgetting or erasing the past. It was about integrating the experience into my life, using it as a catalyst for growth and transformation. It was about learning from the pain, finding strength in the adversity, and creating a future that was aligned with my own values and aspirations. It was about choosing to live authentically, to embrace my own truth, and to create a life that was filled with purpose and meaning. I didn't just expose him, I exposed the lies. I exposed the truth about myself. And I want to leave you with this. We all have moments where we feel lost, where we're stuck in a situation that seems hopeless. But remember, no one holds your future but you. The act of exposing the lies was not just about revealing Mark's deception, it was also about exposing the lies I had told myself, the illusions I had clung to. It was about confronting the reality of my situation, acknowledging the pain, and choosing to move forward. It was about reclaiming my own narrative, rewriting the story of my life. The realization that no one held my future but me was a powerful one. It was a reminder that I was the architect of my own destiny, the author of my own story. I had the power to choose my path, to create a life that was aligned with my own values and aspirations. I would no longer be defined by the actions of others, nor would I be limited by the circumstances of my past. I would embrace the present, seize the opportunities that lay before me, and create a future that was filled with hope and possibility. So, what would you do if you found out your world wasn't what you thought? How would you handle it? Don't let fear keep you from the truth. Own your story and make it your own. The question of how to handle such a profound revelation is a universal one. It's a question that challenges us to confront our own fears, to examine our own beliefs, and to discover our own inner strength. It's a question that invites us to embrace the unknown, to navigate the uncertainties of life with courage and resilience. It's a question that empowers us to take ownership of our own stories, to write our own narratives, and to create lives that are authentic and meaningful. Thanks for watching. If you've been through something similar, or if this story hit home, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real stories. Until next time, take care and stay strong. The act of sharing my story was not just about recounting the events of my past. It was also about connecting with others, about creating a sense of community and shared experience. It was about offering hope and inspiration to those who might be facing similar challenges. It was about reminding them that they are not alone, that they have the strength to overcome adversity, and that they have the power to create a life that is filled with joy and purpose. The invitation to share thoughts and experiences was a way to foster connection, to create a safe space for vulnerability and authenticity. It was a way to remind others that their stories matter, that their experiences are valid, and that their voices deserve to be heard. The encouragement to like, share, and subscribe was a way to amplify the message, to reach a wider audience, and to create a ripple effect of hope and inspiration. The closing words, a take care and stay strong, were a final affirmation, a reminder that strength and resilience are not just ideals, but attainable qualities that reside within each of us.